Today we have my official review of the Fellow Opus grinder. This grinder comes in under $200, and I do want to give a disclosure that Fellow did send me this for an exchange of an honest review, which is what you will get. They don't see this before I give the video, and I'll give you my honest thoughts on it. But before I do that, I just want to say welcome to Kabin's Coffee Corner. This channel is designed to help you choose the coffee gear you want to brew with at home. You'll find a lot of reviews and comparisons. If you're looking at purchasing this grinder, please use the link below. I'll make a slight commission, no extra charge to you that goes back into this channel. And if you could please like and subscribe, that really helps me continue on as a YouTuber. So I want to start off with saying that this is under $200, which makes it pretty competitive in the grinder market today. And this can also do pour over and espresso and anywhere in between that. And it does a pretty good job at all of that. It comes in with a couple different features here. First off, it is very similar to the Fellow Ode in kind of the looks that it has. It's nice and short and compact. It's quiet, it works well. You simply click this button and it will grind for 30 seconds and then stop. I think if you click it twice, it'll do 60 seconds. And if you maybe hold it, it'll keep going for 2 minutes or until you stop it. You simply adjust the grind setting by simply grabbing this little dial here and adjusting it here. On the lid, it has a little indicator here going all the way from espresso into cold brew to kind of give you a guideline of where to brew on that. And this is a single dosing grinder, which means you put in a certain amount of coffee and it comes out with that a certain amount of coffee. It has two little indicators here, and there's a divider on this lid, and that allows you to put 20 grams-ish on one side, so if you don't have a scale, it kind of gives you an idea, and 120 grams on the other side, which seems like a lot, but that is what it is. Right here we have the catch cup here, which is a little dirty, and this catch cup has a lot of different features on here. First off, it is magnetic, so it magnetically slides into place on the grinder, which is a very beneficial thing and a very nice thing. The second thing is the lid is interchangeable. So we have two types of lids on here. We just have the standard little lid here, which goes on just like that. And then you have this kind of cone-shaped looking lid, which just goes on just like that. With the first lid that just has a hole in the center of it, this is for pour over, so it gives you kind of guidance in here, and then you pop the lid off, and it has two little plastic fins to guide the grounds out. The other lid is one of the best features, I think, of this grinder, which is an espresso lid. So it grinds directly into this, and it fits two different sizes of portafilters. The 54 millimeter portafilter, which is typically found on the Breville Barista Express or Breville Bambino, those types of grinder or espresso machines, and you flip that over, and then your grounds will sit perfectly in there without spilling. It also has the setting for a 58 millimeter portafilter, so you put that 58 millimeter portafilter on, and it does the exact same thing there. I find that while using this grinder, it's kind of irrelevant to switch back and forth between the lids when you're switching back and forth between espresso and pour over, because I find this gives me just a good enough guidance into a filter for a pour over or something along the lines of that. This has 41 grind settings, simply adjusting like that. And then on the inside, if you take off the entire hopper, you will have an additional amount of adjustments on the inside. So first off, the burr comes out simple, nice and simple. So you just simply twist, and now you have the ability to clean your burr. This is kind of similar to the Smart Grinder Pro by Breville. This is a 40 millimeter cone-shaped burr, and then it has this other grind adjustment here, which you simply push down on both of these blue sides, and then you can click it to get some more fine-tuning of adjustments. And we're going to explain this a little bit more. And there you go, you can do some fine tweaking, and then you can slap that hopper back on, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so now some opinions on some things about this. This is not as well built as the Fellow Ode, and it should not be. This comes in under $200, so expect that. Like, you're not gonna get a super well built grinder. This is all plastic everywhere on this versus kind of like the more metal or harder plastic on the Ode. The Ode just feels nicer and built better on things. But again, the Ode is like $150 more than this and only does pour over, but it has flat burrs, which gives you a different profile. The catch cup is my favorite thing on this grinder, but the bottom part of the catch cup has already been scratched, and I got this a little bit before it released to the public, but this has been scratched, and this also gets scratched on the base plate. So what I did is I took some vinyl wrap for like a car, and I cut a matte black piece of vinyl wrap, and that is covering over the base plate here, which still gives me enough access to the magnet, but keeps it looking clean, and it's hardly noticeable on that side of things. So it does scratch easily. Even on the hopper lid, this side of this is absolutely covered in scratches. You get a few little pieces of grounds in there, and that just kind of really adds to scratches here. So that stuff just does not work out well. This does have an anti-static mechanism on the inside of it. So basically what I'm going at is this is a very clean grinder. If you're looking at keeping your counter clean and not making a mess on it, this has probably been one of my favorite, most enjoyable grinders to use in that realm of things. So there's very little static on the grinder when you brew with it, which is great. Catch cup fits nice, and then you never really have to worry about missing that realm of things. It's just a joy to use on that realm of things. Simply put this on your scale, add your grounds, and flip it over. It does get a lot of chaff somehow, for me, on the inside hopper of it, so you're going to need to clean that somewhat regularly, which makes me wish that Fellow included the Fellow Ode brush with this grinder. The Fellow Ode brush is this brush that's about that long. It costs, I think, $5 on Fellow's website. If they could have thrown that in just to kind of help things get a little bit cleaner, that would have been super nice. The next thing is this blue grind adjustment on the inside of the grinder. I have no idea why they did that. Well, I do know why they did that. It gives you a little bit more control of dialing in your espresso, and I find that incredibly frustrating. It's not easy to use, it's confusing to use, and the manual does not address it. I looked at the PDF online. I guess I didn't look at the one that came in the box, but I'd assume that the PDF was the exact same on there. And that was a very disappointing thing. I guess maybe I read the get to know you portion of it, but I'm sure you're going to be able to find quite a bit of stuff online about that and how to use that the best. But overall, it's still kind of confusing on that realm of things of using that adjustment on the inside. And I'm just double checking again here. It does not look like it says that in there. But it does say, it does give a good guidelines of how to brew with it, how to dial in espresso, all the features, and it gives you a great coffee to water ratio. So how to make espresso with a 1-to-2 ratio, so 18 grams of coffee per se to 20 grams out. And then Fellow Prismo, use 20 grams and do a 1-to-2.5 ratio, so that's about 40 grams out if you're using or 45 grams out if you're using about 20 grams of coffee, give or take. And AeroPress is like a 1-to-8 for cold brew. Pour over is a pour over for 1-to-14, pour over for 2, like all this stuff. So French press, cold brew, pour over, 1-to-14, 1-to-15, 1-to-16, which I find very, very good and very, very helpful, especially for somebody who's new to this and doesn't really have that kind of mindset in their head already. Okay, so going into the quality of this, I use this pretty exclusively on multiple different machines throughout my house for a little over a month or so. And so I used it on a 58 millimeter portafilter. I used it on a 54 millimeter portafilter. I used it on some manual espresso machines, and I used it for pour overs. So I've used it kind of really well rounded. And what I would want to, my conclusion with that is I believe that this is a really good pour over grinder. For an entry-level electric pour-over grinder, I mean, the Baratza Encore is out there, but I think this does a better job than the Baratza Encore, and it makes a really enjoyable pour-over cup. Grinds quickly, simple, easy to use, clean, great for pour-over. I would also say it can do espresso. I don't think it excels in espresso. I think this is a pour-over grinder first and espresso grinder second, which I like in a lot of senses. It'll get you to be able to pull shots on espresso. So I have the Breville Dual Boiler sitting behind me, and I had a Breville Bambino and a Breville Bambino Plus that I tried this on, and I added flow control on that, which kind of helps quite a bit, which allowed me to adjust the amount of flow rate coming out of it. So in other words, with espresso comes fine tweaking of grounds. So if your goal is to put 18 grams of coffee, get 36 grams out, your goal is to kind of do that somewhere in between like 25 to 30 seconds. And when you adjust the grind setting by one click on this, it is it's not as precise as I would like it to. Meaning that if you're at 25 seconds and you jump it up to be a little coarser, it might happen in 3 or 4 seconds of a difference, so you can't really fine tweak it as much as you'd like. However, it does get the job done, and when you get it there, it does make good shots of espresso, and it's an enjoyable grinder to use and an enjoyable grinder for espresso, which makes it a very good grinder that I would recommend. I made another video comparing it to 2 other grinders, and if there is other grinders like the Turin SD40 that I think does a little bit better job of espresso than the Ode does, but I think the Ode does a little bit better job of pour over. So overall, $195, phenomenal grinder, works fairly okay for espresso, definitely gets the job done, and really excels in pour over and really simple to use. And this was adjusting for espresso when I was dialing this in. I kind of avoided the blue dial on the inside just because it was a little finicky and hard to use, but it does give you a little bit more precise range. It just takes a little bit more work since you have to pop off the entire grinder, and then you have to push this down and move the collar with your finger is the best way to do it, I found. And it just doesn't work the best, but it does at least get the job done for that. Everything seems like it's built well for a $200 grinder. I don't know the longevity of this, obviously, because I've had it for a month. The lid fits perfectly, which you can act as a bellow, so you can kind of see some grounds that's come out. It just does scratch easy, and there's a little bit of tweaks. But overall, this is a great This is a great grinder. I would recommend it to anybody. If you bought this grinder, it's gonna do a good job. Fellows customer support is great. Fellows been around for a while, and I think most people will be happy with this grinder. If you're doing more espresso than you are pour over, maybe try to spend a little bit more money and maybe go with the DF64 by Turin, around $400. But this is a great all-around grinder to have one grinder in your house to get the job done, especially if you're in the mood for more of lattes and milk drinks. Then this is going to be more than capable for what you're doing on that, because you don't need to be as precise, because the milk is going to mask that a little bit more. If you're a straight espresso drinker, you might want to look to a nicer grinder like the Turin SD or the Turin DF64. Obviously, because you drink straight espresso and there's nothing masking that, so you want the best quality as possible on it. But yeah, that is the Fellow Opus. It's been a great grinder. I want to thank Fellow for sending it over. I hope they address that scratching a little bit and throw in a brush and then maybe explain that little blue dial a little bit further, as it's kind of odd that it's not in the manual. But thank you for sending it over. It is a great grinder, and I'm thankful for your support. And again, if you're watching this video, if you could like and subscribe, and if you're looking at purchasing this, please use the link in the description so I can make a slight commission at no extra charge to you, so I can continue producing content like this and making videos for you. Thanks so much for watching.